Shazam! Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate coming at you to do something I've never done before on this channel. I'm going to review a cliffhanger serial. A 12-chapter cliffhanger serial from 1941 by the name of, I'm going to review the serial briefly and then I'll review the Blu-ray by the name of Adventures of Captain Marvel. Now this Blu-ray was recently released, what's the date on it? Yeah, last year, 2017, by Kino Lorber. And then I think this is my third Kino Lorber release, and from what in my opinion, this is the best one so far. I think I got the two others before, which was a Blu-ray of Hills Have Eyes Part 2 from the 80s, and then I can't remember what the Blu-ray of The Pit, and I wasn't really too impressed with the visual, the image quality on neither of those Blu-rays, but this one I can say is really, really, really great. First I'll talk about the serial itself, then I'll talk about the Blu-ray presentation, which is fantastic. But the reason I ended up getting this is not only because I'm a huge fan of cliffhanger, Saturday matinee serials, and I never even saw this one before, but it was on sale like on Amazon for just like a flash sale or whatever for like $13 or $12, $12 or $13. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm all over that. I mean, this is my first cliffhanger serial on Blu-ray altogether. I'm like, it's time to to get some cliffhanger serial action on Blu-ray. So I'm like, that was the right price, and the stars aligned, everything came together, and I did it. But then I looked in my collection, and I was kind of amazed to find this, which is something that I bought. It's got May 26, 2010 on the sticker. I must have got this, back in 2010 for $1 at half price books, and I'd never seen it. But unbeknownst to me, when I ordered this off of Amazon.com, I had actually had since 2010 the original Republic Pictures home video. What's the date on here? Okay, it says 1988. This is the original. Republic Pictures home video did a lot of VHS 2-packs like this of their serials back in the 80s, and then they did releases also in the 90s and stuff. And when you got into the 90s, their VHSs were actually hi-fi, audio and stuff like that. But just because this has got the date of 88 on it doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't released in the 90s. They might have just used an older case, but they put out pretty much, I would imagine, maybe all of their Republic serials on their own Republic home video label. Back in the day, it was cool. They do the spine on one side like this, and on the other side it was like that. So you have a different choice of how you want to word the stuff. And here's the back of the original VHS release of this particular serial. And like I say, I got this in probably 2010 and just put it on the pile and never saw it. But I did have the VHS, or do have the VHS, and just never got around to watching it. So this is a serial from Republic Pictures from 1941. It's directed by the William Whitney and John English, who would go on to do stuff like that I really grew up with, like King of the Rocket Men. And Republic Pictures did so many of just the great classic serials. The Rocket Men ones are like King of the Rocket Men, Radar Men from the Moon, Zombies of the Stratosphere. They did things like The Crimson Ghost, Mysterious Dr. Satan, a favorite of mine, Spy Smasher. They kind of regard this as, possibly the greatest serial of all time. I think for me, the Spy Smasher tops this particular one. Is, for me, Spy Smasher is probably the better serial. I think that was even made before this, but at 1941 I'm like, this is pretty old, and that's really pretty cool to have a serial from 1941 in this pristine condition. I've also, back in the day, got a VHS of the serial Captain America, and I think I want to say the bad guy in that movie, or in that particular serial, was the Scarab or something like that, which is very similar to the bad guy in this serial, which is the Scorpion. Basically, the premise of this serial is the first chapter, is so many times in cliffhanger serials, is the longest chapter, and I think the first chapter of most of like a serial like this is actually like better part, or might be like 30 minutes long or something. They give you the first chapter being longer to kind of like the pilot, if you will, to really flesh out the story and begin the story and stuff. Basically, the premise of this particular serial is these people, these group of American, whatever the hell they are, people. They really, I don't know if they go to this. I don't know if they're like they go to this Arab. I don't know if it's supposed to be like an Arab country or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. But I don't know if they go there and probably intentionally looking for this thing, which is an actual physical kind of a scorpion thing, and all of the claws or some. I don't know how many there are in the movie. But basically, it's said that whoever possesses the scorpion kind of little frickin' little, it's kind of like a big, huge scorpion, just whatever you want to call it, sculpture or whatever with bendable arms and stuff, and it's got, I don't know how many lenses they got, but in several of the arms that bend over backwards over its body and stuff, is places in the claws to put these lenses, and maybe there's 4 or 6 separate lenses or whatever. But basically, the premise of this movie, the serial, is this first chapter is they go to get because it's like whoever wields the scorpion with all of the lenses complete can turn rocks into gold and can wield the great tremendous power. Whoever commands the scorpion with all the lenses intact can turn rocks into gold and evaporate, do all kinds of amazing things and evaporate your enemy or whatever. So that's the premise of this movie, and I would imagine the people, the American people in the movie that go off to this foreign land. I think it's some Middle Eastern country or some kind of foreign land in the beginning of this movie that it's supposed to take place in, where they go and kind of desecrate this tomb and they actually go and get the. I can't remember who actually ends up. I think the bad guy, which is the scorpion, which I don't know. Well, I'll probably show a picture of him. He does like so many times in these old cliffhanger serials. He's got this really cool. They do the same thing in the Batman. There's like a Batman cliffhanger serial that has I think his name is the Wizard, and he looks very much similar, where he's just shrouded in dark kind of just whatever robe thing, and then like a executioner hood over his head. But in this case, the scorpion's got like on his hood a scorpion here and like a scorpion there and there. And I eat up the bad guys of these old cliffhanger serials so much. I just eat this stuff up like no one's business. I love the look of the scorpion in this movie. So basically, I can't remember if the bad guy I think the bad guy ends up with kind of the scorpion who's the bad guy ends up with the scorpion, sculpture thing or whatever. But the whole serial, the bad guy and the good guys are kind of, throughout the whole 12 chapters of the serial, the bad guy and the good guys as well are all, it's kind of a race to find, I can't remember like where they're all hidden or whatever, but it's a kind of a race to find all, the thing is he's got the scorpion sculpture, doesn't do him any good without the lenses to put in the claws to line up, perfectly on the, back of the scorpion to do its, turn rocks into gold or evaporate your enemies or do whatever magical, wondrous stuff you want to do with this power by having this, this ancient scorpion sculpture with the lenses and stuff. So that's what the serial's about, just this and that, and doing all kinds of hijinks throughout the 12 chapters to accomplish that or whatever. Obviously towards the end, I just watched the last chapter today and it was really kind of cool. The stakes are really high, and of course, like they do so often, and they do the same thing in this movie that they'd end up doing later on in Radar Men from the Moon, which is not Radar Men, King of the Rocket Men rather, which is the very first, if I'm not mistaken, the Rocket Man serial with I can't remember, it was Tris Coffin playing Jeff King of Science Associates. They do the same thing where they kind of, well, I guess they do the same thing in Rocket Men that they did in this movie, because this one did it first. I think that was late 40s, where this is 41, where it's like kind of like this movie is like an academic, whatever, group of scientists or whoever they are, and, and one of them is secretly the Scorpion. Very much would be the same premise for King of the Rocket Men, where Science Associates is this group of whatever scientists as well, and I can't remember what the bad guy in the King of the Rocket Men is called, but one of the group of the scientists is secretly the bad guy, the henchman, the mastermind in King of the Rocket Men as well. It's just the shadowy figure. You only see his shadow on the wall. But so this, I don't know if this is the very first time that's one thing about Republic serials, that they just do over and over and over the same thing, which is fine. There's so many hours and frickin' of serial, Republic serial, material that exist. I mean, obviously for them doing the same things over and over is understandable, and it's kind of almost it's inevitable, really. But so you've got several things that will be utilized with cliffhangers in future serials, as Republic serials. This happens over and over, and it was funny because I thought, like, in King of the Rocket Men, they use the old melting cave thing, and I kind of thought back then that was the first time they'd used it. Well, no, they used it, or well, I can't say this is the first time they used it either, because maybe it was used before, but in this serial, they do the melting cave thing too, where the hero is trapped in the melting lava, flowing cave or whatever. I can't remember what melts the lava or the cave and makes it into lava in this particular serial, but what it should be, I didn't even mention, I was having so much fun with the bad guy, I didn't even mention Captain Marvel. The thing, basically what happens is, I guess when they go in and desecrate the tomb or whatever, the bad guys go out and take the scorpion statue, and for some reason this guy, I don't know, they probably don't even say his name, I don't know if I can remember his name, but Billy Batson is kind of the young whatever college age hero or whatever. Well, he's kind of like a nerd or whatever, and he somehow gets entrusted with some kind of magical whatever, I guess they get, some kind of spiritual power or some kind of whatever. This all happens in the first chapter. Entrusts Billy Batson with this ability to, become, Captain Marvel at his whim, when he just simply says Shazam, and he, this Billy Batson kind of wimpy kid turns into this, this hero guy. So it's not like the same. It's a completely different, muscle man playing the Captain Marvel stuff. So instead of going into the phone booth and just changing it, he completely changes from a wimp basically into this, towering muscle man hero. So that's the whole, the kind of gimmick with Captain Marvel. And he can fly, and they do some really relatively great wire. They have the mannequin on the, in the Captain Marvel gear on the wire, and they have them do this every now and then, and what they would end up doing with the King of the Rocket Men as well. So I wouldn't, like I say, having watched this whole serial now, I wouldn't regard this as being the best. I still think Spy Smasher probably tops this serial as being one that I would regard as being one of the better ones. I mean, this is still really up there and being a really great serial. I'm not going to give the serial stars. I mean, I'll just say that it's just kind of weird to give a 12 chapter cliffhanger serial stars. But I will say that this is, The Adventures of Captain Marvel is really up there. And for me, the older serials are like the kind of cooler they are. And then when you go into the 50s and stuff, they're kind of, not that they're not enjoyable in the 50s, but they've done so many at that point that they're really kind of, in the 50s they can be a little more, maybe have a feeling of just going through the motions and being maybe a little less exciting, whereas in the late 30s and the serials in the late 30s and maybe the 40s and stuff, they were really like Spy Smasher. I think Spy Smasher might have been the early 40s. I can't remember, but that was one as well. It was just really slam bang, really great action for being so long ago and stunts and stuff. So I would recommend the serial, and then getting on to my review of the Blu-ray. Absolutely fantastic. Obviously this is the first time I've ever seen it, and you've got audio commentary. I don't know, I can't imagine this thing is freaking 216 minutes. I don't know if they talk throughout the whole thing, but it looks like Leonard Maltin actually is commentary, so maybe there's several commentaries on here, so maybe they just do some people for a certain amount of time or whatever. Then you got a booklet essay, as you can see here, but the whole 216 minutes is on one disc. Here's the inside, and you've got this booklet here. Oh, cool, look at this. Shazam! Got a booklet. As is usually the case, I don't read any of this. I can read, I just don't read any of this. kind of a cool booklet. I never even looked at it yet. I'm actually, this time on this Blu-ray review, I'm showing you all the pages of the booklet. So, and then it's kind of, as so often is the case on Blu-ray, special kind of Blu-ray releases, you've actually got reversible cover art options, believe it or not. So you've got the option for this cover art or this cover art, which shows you there that I was trying to describe the outfit of the Scorpion. That's the outfit of the Scorpion. I just eat that stuff up. I love those kind of 1940s bad guys that look like that. And of course, he's got a completely different voice when he's in, as the Scorpion, as the character does when he's, the other guy who you don't find out until the very end of the serial, last chapter, who he was. They do some of the same things that they'll later do in the King of the Rocket Men serial with, the bad guy, was noticed with the ring on his finger, and then, oh, we gotta go to the board meeting and see who's got the ring on his finger. Or no, and that's how it was in King of the Rocket Men, and this one it's like a cut hand or something like that. So like I said before, I mean, obviously the Republic Pictures will do so many of the same things over all their different serials and stuff, and even using the same cliffhangers and whatever. But for as much of movies and stuff as they produce, it's kind of understanding that they would do that over time. But I'm not sure exactly which cover is better. This is really kind of cool in its own right, and it looks like the back is potentially the same. And once again, here's the other cover. I don't know, I'd say they each have their own greatness. I think they're both original artwork from the 40s. I don't think any of them are newly commissioned or anything. So I guess it's kind of a hard decision, to be honest, which one you'd really want to use. But in closing, the image is absolutely fantastic, as I've already said. The best visual presentation so far on a Kino Lorber release that I've seen thus far. I think it's my third Kino Lorber. Wish they'd have a name I could pronounce. I guess I could say KL. I guess it's my third KL release. It should be said that like the titles for a brief amount of time, the first several seconds of the titles of each of the chapters is kind of blurry, and then as it goes on from like the title to the featured cast or whatever, it kind of looks like it gets focused up or whatever. From what I read online at blue-ray.com, the opening credits might potentially be sourced from 16mm material or something like that. But for the most part, over the 200 and what's it say? 16 minutes of the serial, I mean, the image looks absolutely fantastic. And I mean, I was really appreciative back in the day when they put a lot of serials out on DVD. Like I got 2 Green Hornet serials on DVD, and this other one called SOS something or whatever. It's got the guy who played Dick Tracy in it. So I was always grateful back in the day when they'd put cliffhanger serials out on DVD, and now they're actually putting them out on Blu-ray. And actually they did do another Republic that I might have to get, another Republic Pictures serial, KL did. I think it's actually from like 39 or 40 or something like that, so I might have to get that. I want to say it's like the Daredevils of the Red Circle or something like that. But it's very, very, very exciting when outfits are putting out, and this says newly remastered from a 4K scan from Paramount Pictures archives. It's really exciting when outfits do such a meticulous, kind of scan of a cliffhanger serial. I mean, it really whets my appetite for some of the other favorites, in particular Spy Smasher or Crimson Ghost, whatever, Mysterious Dr. Satan, any of the Rocket Man serials, or Captain America. I mean, the sky's the limit. If they're putting out Republic serials, if KL's putting out Republic serials, I mean, there's a whole hell of a lot more for them to put out as well. So fingers crossed for future Republic Pictures or any other Pictures serials on Blu-ray in the future. Absolutely fantastic presentation. One complaint the only thing that I could really find that was a problem, unfortunately, is the entirety of the chapter 6 has this really kind of annoying, and things have to be moving to see it, but really kind of annoying glitch thing where like every second there's like a visual glitch where, and if you can't notice it if things aren't moving, but if things are moving you'll notice it. Like if there's a pan, it'll be like if there's a pan that lasts like 3 seconds, it'll be it doesn't have a sound. I'm just doing that sound, but you get the point. But unfortunately, chapter 6, the whole chapter of chapter 6 is like it from beginning to end, and I think that's like 16 minutes worth of the overall serial or whatever. It's a little bit unfortunate, but what do you do? Nothing's going to be perfect, but it is the whole entire chapter from what I can remember of chapter 6 that's glitchy. And then just when I watched the last chapter today, somewhere around the 8-minute mark, the sound gets really funky, maybe just for like 40 seconds, and then returns to a decent sound that is presented throughout the entirety of the particular presentation. But absolutely fantastic. Like I say, I'll probably be looking to get the Daredevils of the Red Circle, which is another Republic Pictures serial that I've never seen before. Unlike this one, I don't think I have it on VHS. Unlike this, which I, unbeknownst to me, had for ever since 2010. But I guess that does it for my review of the serial Adventures of Captain Marvel and its recently released Blu-ray review. Highly recommended serial. God, I absolutely eat these things up, and you can see all the old cars, all the old fashions, all the old architecture, and just, oh man, I mean, you really wish there was a time machine sometime so I could go back and actually just visit 1941. It would be so thrilling to me, But alas, that's not possible, at least not now. So thank you very much for watching my Cliffhanger serial / Blu-ray review, and as always, we'll catch you next time.